This is the story of Jalen Brunson's 40-plus point playoff performances with the New York Knicks during the 2024 postseason, along with the reality that the Knicks have not won an NBA championship since 1973. The New York Knicks stand as one of the oldest franchises in the NBA, established back in 1946 and still playing out of Madison Square Garden in New York City. A championship has only happened once for them, and that came in 1973, which means every era since then has carried the same unfinished goal into the next generation. Brunson enters that story as Jalen Marquis Brunson, drafted in 2018 during the second round with the 33rd overall pick by the Dallas Mavericks, and later shifting everything when he signed with the Knicks in July 2022 on a 4-year deal worth about $104 million, a move that immediately changed how the team was built around him. That 2022 signing flipped the structure of the offense almost overnight, and by the time the 2023 season arrived, Brunson was no longer a supporting piece. He had become the main option, carrying possession after possession in New York's system under heavy pressure at Madison Square Garden. March 2024 is where everything spiked, because Brunson dropped 61 points against the San Antonio Spurs, setting a new career high and landing one of the biggest individual scoring nights in Knicks history, which shifted the conversation around him across the entire league. The 2024 playoffs arrived with New York locked into a strong Eastern Conference position. And what followed was a stretch of basketball that placed Brunson directly in the center of every major moment. While Tom Thibodeau pushed a rotation built around defense, effort, and a tight core that included Julius Randle, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo. Philadelphia came first in that playoff path, and in Game 4 against the 76ers, Brunson poured in 47 points against a Joel Embiid-led roster, a performance that didn't just swing momentum, it set the tone for how New York approached the rest of the series. That series intensity carried forward into the next round against Indiana, and this is where it gets heavier, because Game 5 against the Pacers turned into a 44-point outing from Brunson, a night where every possession seemed to flow through him as the Knicks fought through a 7-game battle. Across that entire postseason run, multiple 40-point games stacked up for Brunson, and the result was a playoff stretch where he consistently carried New York's scoring load while the team pushed deeper into the Eastern Conference bracket than they had in years. Indiana eventually closed that series in 7 games during the 2024 playoffs, ending New York's run in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and with that exit, the franchise's championship drought stretching all the way back to 1973 remained fully intact. What makes Brunson's rise stand out is the way it connects directly to expectation versus reality, because a second-round pick in 2018 was never projected to become a franchise engine. Yet once he arrived in New York in 2022, everything shifted into a system where he carried primary responsibility almost immediately. Madison Square Garden, often called the Mecca of basketball, became the stage where that pressure played out nightly, and Brunson's ability to operate under that spotlight turned him into the central figure of the Knicks' modern identity. That 61-point game in March 2024 didn't exist in isolation. It sat alongside playoff explosions like the 47 points against Philadelphia and the 44 points against Indiana, forming a pattern of high-volume scoring that defined New York's most important stretch of the season. Contract discussions around his 2022 deal also evolved over time, because the same 4-year, $104 million agreement that was once questioned by some analysts later became viewed as one of the more impactful signings in recent Knicks history. New York's current identity settles into a simple reality: a team that has returned to playoff relevance in the Eastern Conference while still chasing the same championship that last arrived in 1973, and that gap between progress and completion still defines everything around them. Across that landscape, Indiana, Philadelphia, and other Eastern Conference contenders continue to stand in the way, and even with strong performances in 2024, New York's run showed how thin the margin becomes once the series reach a full 7 games. Brunson's repeated 40-point playoff nights, including the 47 against Philadelphia and the 44 against Indiana, locked in his status as the offensive center of the franchise during that run, especially when every possession tightened under playoff pressure. Still, once Indiana finished the series in 7 games, the outcome reset the conversation again, because reaching the Eastern Conference semifinals was progress, but it was not the finish line the franchise has been chasing for decades. From the original foundation in 1946 through every rebuild that followed, the Knicks' story has stayed tied to one goal that never changed, and every new era has been measured against that missing championship since 1973. Brunson now sits inside that timeline as one of the clearest signs of progress, a player who arrived in 2022, took control by 2023, and delivered major scoring performances throughout 2024 that pushed the Knicks back into serious contention. Even with all of that momentum, the final reality remains unchanged because the Knicks are still searching for their next championship, and the last time that happened was still 1973.